Sherry,
Yes.
you are in the wrong Zoom room. It should be Judge Martin's.
Okay, they told me this one.
Nope, Judge Martin. I mean, you might have been talking to me, but that didn't mean that you're in my Zoom room.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.
maybe.
We're still waiting on, yeah, that's turned.
Yeah, she, to Southfield and Michigan, she thought it was at 9.
Late night.
Exactly. She didn't know it was 9.
So clients here, so I told the client. As long as you're here, when the attorney's not, you should all good things.
Yeah. Is he a prosecutor?
Yeah, it's coming in right now.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Jonathan Mychuk, right?
No, he's quarantined.
Oh, okay.
This is our side then? Yeah, it's by the jury box. I want this one because I'm deaf and my left ear works better. Okay. So. You mark exhibits or?
Are you afraid you're scared? No, I'm not. Okay then. Jamie's not here, I know what you go inside.
One at 6 from him and 8, 9, then I have 2 toxicology reports.
Sorry?
Do you remember where it happened at?
When the crash happened. We got you.
Yeah.
Go back to the phone. We got
No,
you.
that's fine.
Okay.
I do like 90% fatal crashes. They all just kind of like run together.
Yeah. What is your last name? Because we had you before.
Yeah, I was on the shooting murder, the hotel I was Gouge Marks.
No, you at the other building you came.
Oh yeah, you should have for Jane.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's the last name?
Denowith.
Yeah, okay. DEN.
EW.
EWIT.
ETH.
So is that, okay, so that'll be.
These would be out of order because he's
Are you back here safe?
I made it safely, yes.
Thank you. I was extremely worried about trucks.
I get lost out there.
Yeah, it's a big building.
Was that good? Is that good?
Yes, we do.
Yes, well, for the state attorney.
The attorney's not here, defendant's downstairs.
no, like it's where he stays there.
So it's gonna go just the defense attorney.
And now don't forget.
So you have where he stays.
Oh, yeah, no. When you leave, make sure you take them, because we end up with a whole bunch all the time that the prosecutor gets to take.
Yeah, it could be bad if it's
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. And we have a ton of new people, so it's great that you would tell, you know.
Yeah.
So I know this family did not, so I'll go, but let's 3 at a time. Yeah, she's delusional.
She was, I mean, she.
And Isaac is a much nicer person than me, so I was annoyed to talk to him later, but
You want me to?
I mean, the stuff they're gonna say is,
Yesterday, this.
she thinks she's a lawyer and, she's not, and she's wrong, so.
Well, yesterday, she.
So you know the logic, you're not bother calling, right?
I understand.
That's fine, but it's ridiculous, like,
She called me yesterday to make sure that I was ready. And somehow, Nick months ago, she got a personal cell. And it was like, oh,
so they don't know that, they don't know the victim was drunk, do they? Oh, he's like, he's years.
he's driving a car.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost at the point where like, oh, the judge can kick the case for no reason. You are.
Miss Gilbert.
Miss Silver, okay, I'll let Judge know you're here.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got stuck in
That's
my.
right. Thanks for letting me, ma'am.
Morning. Were there body cameras?
What's that?
Were there body cameras? I was listening to, well, actually,
That would be weird.
yeah, for the interview, she was talking about having the benefits. So, yeah, we need these back. Is her?
I mean, very, very quick with my.
All rise. 34th District Court now in session. Judge Oakley presiding.
Have a seat. Appearances on People versus Douglas, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ben Dunham with P74280 for the people.
And good morning, Gabby Silver appearing on behalf of Jada Douglas. I apologize for being late. They were down to one lane on the south field and I was.
Are we ready?
People are ready.
All right, have a seat, folks. Let's call a witness. Let's call a witness.
Your Honor, before the people call witnesses, I will move to admit as people's proposed exhibit number 1, ME case number 20-11422, a Wayne County Medical Examiner report reflecting the postmortem examination on the body of Anthony Butner, spelled Butner.
Ms. Silver, any objections?
May I see that, please? Is it the full report including the talks? Is it the full report
Yeah,
including
it's
the
the
talks?
topics.
Okay, no objection.
All right, that'll come in as People's 1.
That one.
Counsel, have you had it marked yet?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
So, also pursuant to 76611B, I will move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 10, which is a report from the Michigan State Police Forensic Science Division, laboratory number TX 20-10091. And I have that marked as number 10.
Ms. Silver, any objections to number 10?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but you know what, I would make a motion to sequester witnesses, whether there's anybody in the courtroom that's going to be testifying today or at any time in the future.
You two don't have to jump to talk to me. As long as she can hear you, I'm good.
Okay, I don't,
I know it's instinctive, but
it's instinctive, although we've sort of gotten away from it over the
I know.
last 2 years.
It's okay with me either way. Any
Okay.
objections to a sequestration order?
No, Your Honor.
Any of you folks that may be called to testify either today or at a later date, would you step out into the hallway until we call you in, please? If you're just here as spectators, you can
Could I
stay.
just, could we say there would be an exception for the person that identified the body at the morgue. I don't think that's generally in controversy, and we were gonna stipulate for today.
May I have the name of that person, please?
That would be Joseph Butner.
Ms. Silver?
I don't have any objection to that, Judge.
All right. Thank you.
The people at this time will also move to admit people's proposed exhibit number
Oh, hold on,
11,
hold on,
which is
hold on just a
another
minute.
Michigan-
Mr. Denworth, hold on. You okay on 10?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. The people will move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 11, also Michigan State Police Forensic Science Division Laboratory Report number TX 20-1191, and this is record number 2 pursuant to 76611B.
No objection.
Thank you.
And also, prior to calling our first witness, the people in the defense will stipulate that Joseph Butner did in fact identify the body of the victim in this case at the Wayne County morgue.
That's a correct stipulation.
Love the stipulations. Thank you.
Well, before we get Stadler, I've got a small issue with Stadler. So when I was reviewing my client's recorded statement last night, I realized in that recorded statement, there was reference being made to certain body worn camera video being downloaded. And I didn't receive any in this case. So I inquired this morning of the officer in charge, and I believe that Sadler is an officer that made the scene. The officer in charge indicated to me that Sadler was equipped with body worn camera. And if he's going to be testifying, before he does, I would like to be provided with that video. I think it's crucial to my cross-examination, and I don't have it. I didn't even know it existed.
Just so we're clear, it would be a body cam from Sergeant Sadler now, isn't he?
Just corporal. Sir.
Corporal? All right, don't tell him I promoted him. Corporal Sadler, that's what we're talking about.
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, I'm not aware that such an item exists, although I think it would be likely. I think at this point, since the request is coming on the day of exam, I'd ask the court to rule discovery is ongoing, and the people will provide that as soon as possible.
Well, I don't know what they have. And so I assume, especially given who I received discovery from, which is Jonathan Misek, I assumed that I had everything that was there. And I was frankly surprised when I heard the officer talking about downloading the body worn camera video. So, you know, I think I get that discovery is ongoing, but I also get that my client has a right to effective assistance of counsel, and I have the right to be provided with the discovery so I can effectively cross-examine a witness.
When did you receive the discovery that you got?
I received a number of packs of discovery throughout since the case was initiated. So I don't know when the last pack came.
Well, let me ask you this. What you're reviewing last night that mentioned the body camera, when did you receive that?
I received that probably sometime in February.
Which would have been a good time to watch it, and then we could have asked for Corporal Sadler's body cam then. So we're gonna move forward today.
Judge, I skipped it's.
Counsel, we're gonna move
Okay.
forward today. I've got
I made my
everybody
record.
here. This date was set aside only for this case.
I get it, and I'm not
Yeah.
asking to adjourn the entire matter. I'm happy to go forward with everybody else. But I think that it's unfair to know that there's discovery out there that wasn't provided.
Noted.
Thank you, Judge.
I would also ask at this, I would also ask that any and all body worn camera video be preserved and provided as required under the rules of discovery.
Fair enough, Mr. Denworth?
We have to do that. That's important.
Mr. Denworth, fair enough. All body worn camera will be secured and preserved.
Absolutely, Judge. I don't know what happened, but I'm gonna look into that as soon as I leave the court today.
Swear firm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Settle it. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir. What is your name?
Corey Sadler,
And how are you employed?
corporal with the Romulus Police Department,
How long have you been with Romulus PD?
23 years.
And were you working on the date of July 26, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Were you working around the time approximately of 2:40 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
Did you make a location of Wayne Road and Garner Street in the city of Romulus, county of Wayne?
Yes, sir.
Was there a reason that you went to that location?
It was for a report of a two-car possible injury accident.
Okay. What did you see when you got there?
It was really dark in that area with no street lights, so it was very dark. There was some headlights and a few people were flagging me down. But upon making contact with them, they advised that they did not witness it.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay, so you can't repeat what anyone else told you. Just what you saw, what you observed other than what people told you.
There was one car in the northbound lane, a red SUV, I believe a Jeep, was blocking the northbound lane of traffic. And further north was a white pickup that was blocking the southbound lane of traffic. Both had heavy front end damage.
Okay. Was either one of these vehicles occupied?
Both were.
Okay. So let me ask you as to the Jeep, how many people occupied it?
Just one female,
And what about the truck?
one male driver in the driver's seat.
Which vehicle did you approach first?
The female in the red Jeep.
And what was the condition of the female occupant in that vehicle?
She was moving, but she was in and out of consciousness. She was unresponsive.
Okay. Was there anything notable about her that you realized at that time?
When I reached in to check with her to make sure she was breathing and try to speak with her, I could smell the odor of what appeared to be intoxicants to me.
Do you have training and experience with that?
Yes.
Okay. What did you think about that?
Just at that time that fire wasn't on scene, she didn't need immediate medical assistance, so then I moved on to the truck.
Okay. Did you investigate intoxicants further?
Not at that time, no.
Okay. Was she, would she have been able to do SFSTs?
No, she was not conscious. She was.
Okay. Did you, well, what did you do next?
I proceeded over to the pickup truck to check on the driver of that vehicle and found the male driver. It was kind of crushed in. He was pinned in between the steering wheel and the seat, kind of leaning over. I noticed that he was very pale, very lifeless, didn't appear breathing. And upon further check, it appeared to me that there was no signs of life.
Great. What did you do after that?
I advised my dispatch because I knew the fire department monitors were still coming on scene. And then I waited for them to arrive to let them know.
Okay. And do you see the occupant of the Jeep in court today?
Yes, sir.
Can you please point that person out and tell us what they might be wearing?
The young lady over there wearing the multicolored short sleeves top.
Noted for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did further first responders arrive?
Yes.
And what happened? Well, did you later learn the name of the person you just identified in court?
Yes.
What's her name?
Miss Douglas. I know Douglas was the last
Douglas. Can we call her Miss Douglas today then? Okay. What happened with Miss Douglas?
Fire responded on scene. I advised that she was unconscious, but was still breathing in and out of consciousness, and that the male was possibly deceased. So one of the firefighters and I watched him hook up a whatever monitor they have to check for signs of life. he advised me there was no sign.
Objection, hearsay.
Noted.
So whatever they advise you of, you can't repeat in court.
Okay.
So after did you receive some information from a fireman without telling us what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, what happened after you received that information?
I secured that scene until my accident team showed up on scene.
And what?
Till the accident reconstruction team arrived on scene to take over the scene.
Okay, and what happened with Miss Douglas in the Jeep?
She was transported to, I believe, Beaumont Dearborn to the hospital for further treatment.
And did you take any further action in regard to Miss Douglas?
Once the scene was turned over to the accident team, I went back to the police station, filled out a search warrant for a blood draw. And then once that was approved, I responded to Dearborn Hospital and had the staff there draw the blood for me.
Can you tell us just generally what was the basis for the search warrant?
Just my detection of odor, alcohol, and the circumstances surrounding the scene.
Meaning the car accident?
Yes.
Okay. Was that search warrant signed by a judge?
Yes.
And did you execute the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
What steps did you take to execute the search warrant?
Arrived at the hospital, the search warrant was turned over to the hospital staff with the search warrant. Common procedure then is we have a kit from our station that we take with us that's sealed. I unseal the kit and turn it over to the phlebotomist. And once they do all the stuff, we both fill out the proper paperwork, sign it. I then reseal the box with secure seal tape, evidence tape, and then I transfer that back to the station.
Okay. Did you actually watch the phlebotomist draw the blood?
Yes,
Okay. With any issues with that?
none that I saw.
And have you seen that done before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you, I think you said you received it back from the phlebotomist? Is that-
Once they give you the vial, they secure the vials in the kit. I put everything back in the box, seal it, and put the tape on it.
Okay.
Then I initial it and fill out the.
What did you do with the box containing the blood after that?
Our common process, once we make it back to the station, we have an outgoing mailbox that is placed in there for transport to the lab.
Okay. And let me just go back for a second. Which seat of the car was Miss Douglas in?
The driver's seat.
And was there anyone else around that vehicle at that time?
No, sir.
No further questions for this witness.
Ms. Silver, your witness.
Thank you.
What time were you dispatched to the scene?
Would have been sometime after 2:30, some around 2:40, 2:35, 2:40 a.m.
Do you have a report that would help us know exactly what time it was that you were dispatched?
I did complete a primary police report,
Okay,
yes.
do you have that report with you?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, why don't you see if that refreshes your recollection, please?
I have 2:40 a.m.
I'm sorry,
I have 2:40 a.m. is my time.
is the time that you were dispatched there? Or the time you arrived?
It just has a report 2:40 a.m. And that's generally the dispatch, when they enter it in, the run, that's the time that's attached to the run creation time. When I
Okay.
pull the report, it goes off that.
Okay, so what time did you arrive?
That would have been a few minutes after that. I was maybe 2:45, 2:43, not that long after.
Okay, and where were you coming from?
I don't recall.
As part of your duty as a police officer, do you wear a body worn camera?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you wearing a body worn camera that night?
I believe so.
Okay, when did your department start wearing body worn camera?
It's been a few years, but it's been off and on between us transferring to new cameras from different ones. So I believe we had them at the time.
Okay, so you believe that you were wearing a body worn camera video on the night of this incident, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
In fact, does your report reflect that you were wearing a body worn camera?
Not that I recall. Let's
Well, it says
Oh, actually, yes, I'm
information.
sorry.
Yes.
Body worn camera number 7. yes.
All right. And so was that operating?
As far as I know, yes.
All right. And after your shift, did you download that or dock it so that it could be downloaded?
We have in our equipment area, there's a docking station we plug it into at the end of our shift.
And you did that on this particular occasion
Yes, ma'am.
because you do it after every shift. Is that
At the end
right?
of the shift.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you arrived on the scene and the area was really dark, as
Yeah.
you described it. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that that area, is it a 2-lane road or 4-lane? If you
That area,
recall.
I believe might be 2 lanes and a center turn lane.
Okay. And you said that there's no streetlights in that area?
Not in that general area, no, it's very scarce.
Is it a business area or residential area or just a kind of empty stretch of road?
Kind of empty in that general area there. There is some residences up further north, but that area there is kind of bare.
Can you tell us if you remember, were there headlights on the red Jeep that were functioning?
I don't recall.
What about on the white pickup, if you recall?
I don't recall. I don't believe they were on. I don't believe they were, but I don't recall them.
You don't believe they were on in which
On
vehicle?
the truck, I don't believe there was any lights on the truck.
Is that something you would have noted in your report?
General accidents maybe, but that one I did not.
All right. Now, you indicated that when you went over to the Jeep where Miss Douglas, you've identified Miss Douglas, you said that she was moving, but in and out of consciousness. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Were you able to have a conversation with her?
No.
You indicated that you smelled intoxicants. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And where were they coming from, if you know? Was it her clothing,
just
her
in-
car?
Just in close proximity, the interior of the car around her.
What about in the truck?
I did not detect anything inside the truck.
Did you see any intoxicants inside Miss Douglas's vehicle?
Not that I recall.
What about in the truck?
Not that I recall.
You told us that based on the odor of alcohol that you've now told us you smelled coming from inside the SUV, the Jeep, you sought a search warrant. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you seek a search warrant, you, of course, are an affiant and you're under oath. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you indicated in your search warrant that the suspect was under arrest for OW intoxicated and OWI causing death. Is that correct?
For investigations, yes.
Well, it doesn't say that. It says under arrest for OW intoxicated and OWI causing death. Is that right?
Yes.
You checked off a box that indicated that the suspect had been advised of his or her rights to a chemical test of of the suspect's breath, blood, or urine. You checked off that box. Is that correct?
I don't recall that. If
Would
it
you
was,
like-
it was a mistake because I was not able to.
Would
advise
you
her.
like to see your sworn document?
I can say yes. Yeah, I did mark that, but
So
that was-
you swore under oath to a judge that you had advised Miss Douglas of her chemical rights. But of course, we know that you were unable to do that because she was unconscious. Is that correct?
Yes, that was a mistake there.
A mistake? Is that right?
Yeah, because I
Oh,
did not.
mistake. Okay. You also in that same document, you indicated, excuse me, that the suspect was offered a preliminary breath test, which was refused.
Yeah, that would have been a mistake.
That's-
Yeah, yeah, she
well,
was not,
you-
I did not offer one.
Well, this is, you're under oath, right? You're under oath and sworn when you said all this, correct?
Yes.
All right,
Obviously, I missed
so
it.
you told the judge to get this search warrant that the suspect was offered a preliminary breath test. That wasn't true, was it?
No.
Which was refused. She never refused it because she wasn't offered it, correct?
No.
All right. You indicate that the affiant believes the suspect is under the influence of intoxicating liquor because the odor of intoxicants emanating from his, her breath, person, interior vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And slurred speech, watery eyes, flushed face. Which part of that is true?
I don't know. I just remember she was kind of
Which-
slurred. She was in and out of consciousness, but I was unable to carry on a full conversation with her.
Well, what did she say to you that you concluded her speech was slurred?
I don't remember exactly what she said, but
Well, you told us that you couldn't talk to her because she was unconscious.
no, she was in and out of consciousness.
Okay, so you weren't able to tell at that point whether she was slurring words or she was in and out of consciousness. Is that correct?
It was, when I was trying to ask her questions and speak to her, she was moving and mumbling. It was, to me, it was slurring, mumbling. It was in and out of consciousness.
Well, that's
But it
not,
was not answering questions.
okay, but you don't know if that's because she had just been in an accident,
No.
was injured?
Did not.
Okay. You, in that same search warrant, where you said you spoke to her, offered her all these tests, you also indicate that you saw the suspect exit the vehicle through the driver's door. Did you see her get out of the car?
I don't recall if she had, I don't remember.
Well, you included that as part of your request for a search warrant for her blood. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, but I don't recall if she did. 'Cause she was moving around, and like I said, in and out of consciousness.
Okay, but that's not what I asked you. Did you see her exit the vehicle through the driver's door? Yes or no?
Once fire got there and helped her out, yes.
Okay, I'm
I-
sorry.
When fire got there and was helping her out of the vehicle, I do remember her getting out there.
Okay, so
So she was moving.
okay, she was moving on her own when fire got there.
Yes.
And she exited the vehicle on her own.
As far as I recall, yes, she was.
Okay, well, if you don't remember, please don't make more of a problem here. If you don't remember, say you don't
Not
remember.
100%, but I,
Not 100%, but what?
don't remember if,
I didn't understand that.
no,
Don't-
if she got out or not, I don't remember 100%. No.
How many other police officers, if you know, arrived on scene?
I don't recall.
Were there, I mean, I'm assuming you weren't the only one. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay, many police officers from Romulus arrived?
I don't recall. I know one officer, Nippus, showed up who was an accident team, but I
Okay.
don't remember anybody after that.
Do the officers on the accident team wear body worn camera?
I don't know.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Denowith, any follow-up?
No, thank you, Judge.
Can we release the corporal back to duties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Silver, no objection?
No objection.
Be safe. Want you to step on the ramp? Raise your right hand, swear affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Settle in. When you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir. What is your name?
Gabriel Vicky.
Um, Can you speak up or get closer to the mic?
That better.
Thank you.
Spell your last name.
Vickey.
Thank you.
And how are you employed?
I'm a police officer.
For which agency?
Counsel,
City.
hold on a minute. Are you guys possible witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just want to make sure you're not possible witnesses. Welcome.
Okay. For which agency?
City of Woodhaven.
And are you assigned to any special duties or tasks?
I'm a sergeant with the road patrol and also assist with downriver crash response team.
And what is the downriver crash team?
We assist several agencies with the investigation of serious injury or fatal crashes.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Sure. I didn't catch it. Officer, sergeant, corporal?
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Does he have a report?
He's got like a one-page report that says he.
Oh, yeah, okay, I've got those.
He made these.
I don't have the one-page report. I have those.
Says I was assigned to make these. and
Okay.
that's all I did.
Okay.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Sure.
I'm gonna first hand you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 9. Can you tell us what that is?
It's a list of training I've attended and received as it relates to traffic crash reconstruction.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate list?
Yes.
Move to admit people's proposed number 9.
No objection.
Thank you.
Okay. And what training have you received in accident reconstruction?
I've attended several classes, including traffic crash technical school put on by Michigan State Police
Yeah, I don't know.
and traffic crash reconstruction.
Okay, I'll just cut you off there. At this time, the people are gonna move to qualify Sergeant Vicky as an expert in accident reconstruction.
I can't stipulate to that. I've never
Why,
seen
are
this
you-
officer. No, I have no report from him. I'm not stipulating.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you continue to go through the list?
Yes.
Well, I've stipulated to the list. I mean, the list, I didn't have any objection to that being entered into.
I
We can-
misunderstood. I'm
We can
sorry.
incorporate the list
Okay.
without going through. The court can certainly look at it.
Okay.
Okay, I'd move to publish people's exhibit number 9 to the court.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And in addition to your training, do you have experience with accident investigation?
Yes, I do.
And how long have you been on the downriver crash team?
Approximately 5 years now.
And approximately how many fatal crashes have you investigated during that time?
I would say about 100 or so.
Okay, and what types of things have you done as an accident investigator?
I've taken photographs of scenes and downloaded CDR boxes of vehicles, as well as mapped roadway scene evidence, photographed vehicles.
And what did you do in particular in this case?
I investigated on scene and mapped the roadway evidence and vehicles at their final rest.
Okay. Have you done that in the past?
Yes,
And do you have training to do that?
yes, I do.
And is your training reflected on what's been provided to the court as People's Exhibit number 9?
I don't believe I put the training from the Leica. I think that may have been excluded from that list.
Do you have further training that's not reflected on your CV?
Besides that Leica training, no, I do not.
So you created what you referred to as scene mapping, is that it?
Yes,
What training do you have specific to scene mapping?
hands-on experience using a CAD system in the program, taking the measurements from on scene, producing a scale diagram.
Okay, and you said something about a Leica system.
Yes,
What is that?
that is the data collector and scene measuring software and system used to take measurements from the crash site.
And then you put those into the CAD program
Yes,
and it generates something?
it takes the data points that we measured on scene, produces them into the,
Okay, is that what you did in this case?
yes.
Okay. At this time, the people will move to qualify the sergeant as an expert in accident reconstruction.
Ms. Silver?
I have some questions, please.
Sure.
Is it Sergeant Hickey?
Yes,
And have you told us about your experience and all the classes you've taken, and that you've been in the downriver crash team, I think you said for 5 years, is that correct?
yes.
And how many times have you been qualified to testify as an expert in a court?
I have not.
I'm sorry?
None. I have not been qualified.
Have you testified in court before?
For traffic crashes one other time previously.
So in 5 years of being on this crash team and taking all these classes, you've never been called to testify other than one time?
Correct. This is my second time testifying.
Okay. And the other time you were not qualified as an expert, or did they not try to qualify you as an expert?
They did not try to qualify me as an expert.
Where was that case?
In Redford Township,
And what was your role in that particular case?
I conducted a CDR download of a vehicle for that case.
Okay, so not giving expert testimony as to how an accident occurred, is that correct?
Correct.
And which is what you're being asked to do here.
Yes.
Have you ever, do you ever train other officers?
In what areas?
In what you're going to testify here today, accident scene reconstruction?
I've helped other officers in my department.
What does that mean, helped? Gone over
I-
cases with them and given your input?
Yes.
I don't mean this to be a memory test, but what year was your last training? I don't have the document in front of me. Do you need to look at it?
2020 is the last one on this list.
That would be 2020.
And what was the one in 2020?
I believe that was the CDR.
Bosch CDR.
Yes, CDR training class.
CDR what?
The training class on how to conduct the downloads.
Oh, okay, so just to download, which is not what you did in this case.
Correct.
May I see that
Sure.
document? Sorry, Judge. I heard that. So, the class in December okay, we've talked about the most recent one, which is the August of 2020. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever testified in any personal injury lawsuits as an accident specialist?
Yes.
Okay. As an expert?
No, they did not try for an expert there either.
Okay, so again, just as to what you did on scene.
Correct.
Okay. In December of 2019, well, we talked about the Bosch CDR tool. In December of 2019, one of the items on your CV is an 80-hour training class at Wayne County Community College, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in July of 2019, you did one on trucks, basically.
Yes.
You did a 40-hour training course on trucks and CDL laws. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that doesn't have anything to do with what we're here for today, correct?
Not in this case. Correct.
In 2019, June of 2019, one of your courses there was in on bicycles and motorcycles, correct?
Yes.
And that was a 24-hour training course. That doesn't have anything to do with what happened here. Is that correct?
Yes.
In January of 2018, you did a course on EDR use, event data recorder use, correct?
Yes.
And does that impact your testimony here today?
Not pertaining to this case. No.
In 2017, it looks like you did an 80-hour initial traffic course on reconstruction of accidents. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that was sort of a beginner's course. Is that right?
Yes.
And in 2013, well, that was when you were in the police academy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So 17, we've got the initial sort of beginner's version of accident reconstruction. And then we've got the EDR that has nothing to do with this. We've got the bikes and mopeds, nothing to do with this. The trucks that have nothing to do with this. And downloading the CDR, which has nothing to do with this, correct?
Correct.
So basically, we've got a class in 17, the beginner's class in 17, and then it looks like a class in 2019, which is time distance analysis, vector sum analysis, and conservation of momentum equations. Does that apply in this particular case?
Not as far as my involvement.
Okay. So if I'm reading your CV correctly, the only course that you appear to have taken that would be relevant to what you're asked to testify here to today is maybe your initial training in the beginner's class in 2017. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
I have no other questions.
Thank you.
And I object to this officer being called as an expert witness in this case.
Mr. Denowitz.
Judge, I think he's got the training and experience. The fact that his role in this case is limited to a tiny portion of what he's actually able to do, I don't think means that he's not able to testify in that area. The people are basically seeking to have him testify as to where the area of impact was, and I could develop that further, but you know, it's a very small portion of his training that I don't think would have gone. I don't think they would have gone over that area all that much in the training because it's fairly basic. as compared to vector analysis and mathematical equations.
Let me hear what he's got to say.
Okay,
and
so
how-
do you have
how-
any training in?
Hold on. I want to hear what you're trying to introduce through the sergeant
Okay,
and how he arrived at that conclusion, and then I'll make my decision.
and you're okay to hear it from me, right?
Yeah.
Well, the people are going to seek testimony that he responded to the scene and he determined where the area of impact was. And I asked for his opinion on where that area was, and based on that, who was at fault for the crash. And we don't even really need him to say who was at fault if his opinion on where the area of impact is admissible.
Am I right in assuming that when he did all that, the vehicles were still there?
The vehicles were still there.
So what he's going to testify to is all based on his observations.
And if he's not qualified, I'm definitely gonna go down that route, Your Honor. But and we have photos of this area of impact, but I think for him to actually say that is the area, he would have to be qualified as an expert. If we simply admit the photographs and he describes what is in them, then I would more or less argue to the court that you can determine the same things that he's determined simply by looking at the photographs.
Is there any part of your special training that comes into play with the conclusions that you arrived at the scene?
Yes. that's
Hold on, your special training or experience in this area?
Yes.
How so?
As far as examining roadway evidence on the scene to determine area of impact and path of travel post-impact for the vehicles.
Okay. Either one of you have any questions for the sergeant based on my questions?
No,
No.
And that's the 80-hour class. That would be the training you received that comes into play for today's testimony?
Accumulation, yes, between the initial it's called at-scene investigation. That was the class she's referring to. in
2017.
Yes.
Anything else other than experience on other sites, accident sites?
That included with experience.
I could wait to the end to qualify him, and perhaps it would make more sense.
Let's try that.
Okay. May I approach the witness with
Sure.
what has been marked as people's proposed exhibits 5, 6, and 7? I just handed you 3 photographs. Can you tell us what people's proposed exhibit number 5 is?
A photograph of the crash scene.
And is that the crash scene that we've been discussing today?
Yes.
Okay, is that a fair and accurate depiction as you observed the crash scene on that night?
Yes, it is.
Okay, move to admit people's number 5.
I don't have any objection.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell us in a little bit more detail what is depicted in number 5?
Some roadway debris with a red Jeep came to rest post-impact.
Okay, and are you able to tell us which I guess which lane that is showing? Or would you need to refer to something else to get north-south?
If I could refer to my scale diagram or anything for a north-south reference.
I can't hear him.
He wants to look at his scale diagram, which the people are not moving for admission of it this time.
Yes.
So, take a look at these documents by yourself and just tell us if looking at those refreshes your memory.
Exhibit 5 would be looking at the northbound lanes.
Okay, and in that northbound lane, in the actual northbound lane, is there anything notable in the roadway?
There's a tire. And that would also be the area of impact in the northbound
Well,
lane.
so to be fair, is the area of impact your opinion, or is that something you can just look at the road and decide?
After looking at the evidence on the roadway, I'm
Okay,
able,
so at this point, we want to go through what may or may not lead to your opinion, but we want to go through the actual roadway evidence and not just declare the area of impact. Is that okay?
yes.
Okay, so what is the roadway evidence in the northbound lane?
They're kind of look at the other pictures as well.
I'm sorry.
Kind of look at the other pictures here as well to see.
Yeah, so, what is people's proposed exhibit number 6?
There's a fluid trail in the northbound lane continuing.
Okay, is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw that night?
Yes.
Move to admit people's number 6.
I don't have any objection to 6.
And what is number 7, proposed number 7?
Looking northbound in the northbound lane.
Is that picture also fair and accurate as to what you observed that night?
Yes.
Move to admit number 7.
No objection.
Thank you.
Now, based on people's admitted exhibits 5, 6, and 7, can you tell us, or from your memory, can you tell us what was the notable roadway evidence in the northbound lane?
In the northbound lane, there was a gouge.
Why is a gouge notable roadway evidence?
It's indicative of the area of impact where the vehicles came together at maximum engagement.
And what would have put a gouge in the road?
Where the vehicles at impact come together and make a mark in the roadway
Okay.
at the maximum engagement point.
What else is in the northbound lane that's notable?
Debris from vehicles as well as glass and the fluid trail.
What can we tell from a fluid trail?
The path, in this case, both vehicles, but from a fluid trail, you can tell the path a vehicle took after the impact.
And what does glass in the roadway tell you?
Indicative of the area of impact as well as the direction of travel at the time.
And were you able to observe the southbound lane?
I was at the time, yes.
Okay. Oh, well, and let me ask you this. I should have asked you before, but how many lanes are on this road?
It's a 3-lane roadway with 1 lane for northbound travel, a dedicated center lane, and a southbound.
So when you say dedicated center lane, what's it dedicated to?
A turn, I believe it's a turn lane.
Okay.
With a double yellow.
And were you able to inspect all 3 lanes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you find anything? Did you find any fluid in the southbound lane?
No, I did not.
Did you find any glass in the southbound lane?
No.
Did you find any evidence in the southbound lane that would indicate an area of impact?
No, I did not.
Okay. Are there any relevant tire tracks anywhere on any of these lanes?
I believe from my diagram,
Well, we don't want to deal with your diagrams quite yet. Can you tell us from either your memory or the pictures, or if you can refresh your memory with the diagram, that would be okay.
from the picture, number 7, there's a path through of fluid or through the fluid.
Okay. And is that evidence notable in this case?
Yes,
And why is that?
it shows the truck traveling northbound and coming to rest facing westbound.
Okay. So, Your Honor, at this time, I would renew my motion to qualify the witness as an expert for the sole purpose of giving his opinion as to where the area of impact was.
Ms. Silver,
Same objection.
I don't think he needs to be an expert.
I'm
Okay.
sorry?
I don't think he needs to be an expert for that.
Okay.
He can testify his observations. I can decide where the impact was from that.
Thank you, Judge. I agree.
mean,
Sir, what is your
kinda obvious.
opinion on where the area of impact was in this case?
Well, I thought the court just said that the court could determine where the area of impact was.
Based on his testimony, I think it's pretty obvious that it was happening in the northbound lane.
Okay.
So if all you want to establish from his testimony is where the two cars came together, it's pretty clear to me.
The people have no further questions. I'll just leave the exhibits, including the unadmitted exhibits, with the witness to facilitate cross-examination.
Thank you. Ms. Silver, your witness.
Yes, thank you. May I have the exhibits, please? And you, of course.
Yes.
Thank you. So when you were called out to the scene, you were actually contacted by Officer Keith Haynes, who's present in the courtroom today. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you were called out to assist with a fatal crash investigation. Is that correct?
yes,
And that was at 5:11 in the morning is when you were contacted. Is that accurate?
yes,
And before going out there, it was determined, at least according to your report, that your involvement would be limited to mapping and producing a scale diagram. Is that right?
yes,
Okay. The photographs that were provided, those are not photographs that you took. Is that correct?
yes.
Somebody, an evidence technician or somebody took the photos?
I'm not sure who took the photos
So you never saw the photos until when?
this morning.
Okay. You told us that you saw a gouge. Can you tell me which photograph has the gouge?
Yes. Number 6.
Okay. May I see that, please?
Yep.
And for the record, what area of the photograph, you're gonna have to be pretty descriptive here because we don't have it up on a monitor, but what area of that photograph are you testifying is a gouge in the road?
There's several gouges in the picture.
Okay, and so tell us where the first gouge is in the picture.
Are you asking for area of impact?
No, I'm
Or-
asking you on the photograph,
Mhm.
what is the area, describe for us the area that you are describing is a gouge.
Like I said, there's several gouges in the
Okay,
picture.
start with the first one that you claim is a gouge. Where is that in the photograph?
At the start of, I guess that would be the southern part of the fluid trail.
Okay, so when you're looking at photograph number 6, you're describing and pointing to an area that you claim is a gouge, kind of directly in the middle of the photograph. Would that be accurate?
I wouldn't call it the middle of the fluid. That's all fluid there. I would say the southern part of the,
Okay, so
Fluid.
right before the darkened area of the photograph of the fluid in the road.
I'd say that's more accurate.
Okay, where else, when you say a gouge, what does that mean? Is it an actual indentation in the road? What are you using the word gouge to describe?
A mark in the roadway made by the vehicles.
Okay, so when you say a gouge, it's a mark in the roadway.
Made by the vehicles.
Okay, not like a gouge, like a portion taken out of the road. It's a mark on the road.
Correct.
Okay. Where else on photograph number 6 are there what you call gouges?
Just north of that initial mark, gouge, just north of the initial gouge, where there's less fluid,
Okay,
continues.
I'm sorry, Council, to preserve the record, would you like me to circle these areas?
I don't want to, I mean, I'd like them to, but
Any
I
objection?
don't have another copy of.
Or
them.
highlight them, or?
What's the question? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm trying to have him show us on this photograph what the gouges are, where the gouges are.
Could
So
you
the judge-
highlight
the
them or
judge can
circle them?
Highlight them or circle, is that okay?
Yeah.
Let me give him a highlighter, that might show better.
Here, I got 2 colors.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and circle on People's Exhibit 6, the gouges, as you call them.
A little bit, I think.
Yeah. So I guess when I look at this, I'm trying to understand how the areas you circled are different than some of the other areas on the photograph. I mean, are you, when you're doing that, are you telling us that from your memory, or is that photograph really showing you what you call areas of gouge?
From that photograph, that's what I can tell.
Okay, so I guess I'm asking you then how the areas that you've circled are any different from any of the other darkened areas on this photograph.
Based on my training and experience, that's a fresh mark in the roadway left by 2 vehicles or a vehicle involved in a crash.
Okay, is gouge a term that you use or that is commonly used to describe those types of marks on the road? Is that the word that is typically used?
In crashes, yes.
Okay. Now, so you're saying that the areas that you've circled from viewing this photograph, you're able to tell are areas with fresh marks on the road.
Yes.
Judge, I'd like to have the court look at that.
Sure.
Thank you. You testified that there was fluid that was coming from both vehicles? Is that what you said?
From what I recall, and based on my diagram I made, and based on the photos, yes,
There was fluid from both vehicles?
yes.
Was the area that you were examining a well-lit area?
From what I recall and based on the photos, no, we had flashlights and lighting out there.
What kind of lighting did you have besides flashlights?
I don't recall.
Okay, you don't remember were you using a flashlight?
Personally, I had a flashlight with me,
Okay.
yes.
And you think that there was other light, but you don't remember?
No, I do not remember.
How long were you out there? I'm sorry?
Personally, I don't know how long I was there.
An hour, 2 hours, 4 hours?
Most likely 2 to 3 hours. That's how long a scene like that usually takes.
Do you have any, did you take any notes when you were out there?
No,
Well, where did you write down your measurements and stuff?
they are in the data collector that I use to measure the scene with.
Okay, so you used that right on scene?
Yes,
Okay. No written notes or anything of that nature?
no,
Were there any lights on, headlights on either of the vehicles, if you recall?
I do not recall, no.
You indicated that there was glass on the roadway as well, is that correct?
Looking at the photos from what I could recall from the photos, yes.
Well, what about what you recall from your memory?
From my memory, I do not recall, no.
I'm sorry, Ms. Silver, what was the question?
I was asking him about the roadway, the debris, the glass on the roadway, and it sounds like he doesn't have any recollection that he's testifying based on what he sees in the photographs. Is that accurate?
Based on my own recollection, no, I don't remember.
You don't have a recollection?
No.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Denowith? Redirect?
Oh, this is, may I approach to give him back his documents?
Sure, sure.
May I review the pictures?
Here.
Thank you.
So, sir, you marked some, what you described as gouges on People's Exhibit 6. That's correct, right?
Yes,
And those are in the northbound lane, is that correct?
correct.
Is there any gouges in the southbound lane?
None that I recall seeing, no.
Okay. Do you recall any evidence at all in the southbound lane that would indicate an accident in that lane on that night?
No.
Nothing else for this witness.
Ms. Silver?
Are you telling us that there were no gouges in the southbound lane, or that you don't remember as you sit here today?
I don't remember seeing any evidence, any gouges in the southbound lane.
Well, you didn't remember seeing glass either until you saw photographs, right?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Nothing else. All right, I've got a problem with the gouge. Because I'm a woodworker, so a gouge to me means like a missing chunk of material.
Mhm.
So what I see in those pictures are like light, like what I would consider scratches in the roadway surface. Is that what you're talking about? Like something hit that surface and disrupted the surface?
Right, a gouge is a mark, a deep,
Yeah,
I'll
so,
say cut.
so you're looking at black asphalt and what shows in the photos to me is like a lighter colored
Mhm.
line. And that's where that aged asphalt has been exposed by some kind of a hard surface scraping along it or scratching it or something like that. Is that what you're describing?
Yes, and we can tell what's like fresher and then from the weather and other
Sure,
cars driving over.
discoloration is different.
Yeah,
right.
what's new and what's
All right.
been there a while.
Okay, all right. Any questions for the sergeant based on my questions of the sergeant?
No, thank you, Judge.
I do.
Go ahead.
No, I don't.
Okay. Can we send the sergeant back to wherever he wants to be?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, sergeant. Stay safe. Watch your step on my ramp.
Judge, can I have a 2-minute break?
Sure.
All rise. Before this court now in session.
Absolutely.
New courthouse is so nice. I didn't even know till I pulled up. I'm like, whoa, what?
Big difference than the last one, eh?
Yeah, kind of liked the old one. There's none of those old ones really left anymore. I don't think. Lincoln Park.
I mean, if it rained a lot, we would have obstacles.
Yeah.
Above it.
I think Lincoln Park might be the only. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Mr. Dunaway, who's our next witness?
We have one more witness, Your Honor.
Sergeant all the way up front. Watch my ramp. Raise your right hand for me. Swear firm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I do. Settle in. Mr. Dunaway, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, what is your name?
Sergeant Aaron Bernards,
And is Aaron spelled in the normal way?
AARON,
And what about your last name?
BINIARZ.
Okay, and you said you're a sergeant?
Yes, sir.
For which agency?
Trenton Police Department.
Do you have some sort of special assignment that makes you involved in this case?
Yes, I'm the commander of the Downriver Crash Response Team.
Okay. And what did you do in this particular case?
I what's called imaged airbag control modules from both vehicles that are involved in this crash.
Okay, and did you make a certain location to do that?
I made the impound yard for Rhinos Towing or Rhinos Police Department.
And do you recall the approximate date?
August of 2020.
Okay, and which vehicle or vehicles were you going to investigate?
I believe it was a 2000 Silverado Chevrolet and a 2007 Jeep Compass or Liberty.
Okay, and was that at the request of any particular person?
Yes, it was.
And who is that?
Corporal Haynes from Rhinos Police Department.
That's the officer in charge of the case,
Yes.
sitting at the table with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did he make the tow yard with you?
Yes, he did.
Did you, in fact, well, let me ask you this. Are you trained and experienced in imaging CDRs?
Yes.
Um,
No, I'm good with him.
Okay, we'll move to,
Admit this witness as, well, just as to CDRs, what would you say your expertise is?
I have imaged approximately 85 airbag control modules.
Okay, and you've been qualified in court to do that before?
Yes.
Okay, move to admit this witness as an expert in crash data recorders.
No objection.
Thank you.
Okay.
So qualified.
And what exactly did you do first in regard to the Jeep?
Did a walk around. Always, it's better if the vehicle has power. It's easier for us to image the vehicle, but the vehicle was so badly damaged that I had to remove the actual airbag control module.
Okay. And you did so in this case?
Yes.
Did you take it somewhere or did you do the work at the tow yard?
So I shouldn't say every airbag control module, but a lot of the airbag control modules take specific cables. I did not have the certain cable at that time, so I had to get one from another agency for us to image it. So I did that back at Trenton Police Department.
Okay. And were you able to do that?
Yes.
Were you able to create the image?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to interpret the image?
Yes.
And were you able to form an opinion as to the seconds before the crash as to the speed, braking, et cetera, of the Jeep?
Yes.
Then that's based on the information you downloaded?
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us what you were able to determine as it relates to the Jeep Compass in this case?
Completed a most recent event image, which means that's the image that is locked inside the airbag control module. The way we do that is by using, like I said, the identified cable hooking directly up to the module, hooking up to what is the hardware of the crash data retrieval system. And it produces an image or a report that is basically raw data. We can't go in there and change any kind of data on that image. It produced that CDRX report, and I'd have to go into the report to look at, speed and braking and all that stuff.
And did the airbag deploy in this case?
Yes.
And how are these numbers then related to the deployment of the airbag?
They're pre-crash data. So it's what's happening seconds or tenths of seconds prior to impact.
Immediately before the airbag goes off?
In some cases, yes.
Okay. What about in this case?
In this case, yes.
Okay. What are you able to tell us about the seconds immediately preceding the airbag deployment in this case?
The vehicle was traveling at 5 seconds prior to impact. The vehicle was traveling at 55 miles per hour.
I'm sorry, how fast?
55 miles per hour.
Okay. Is there any braking or anything like that?
There's no braking.
Is there anything else notable provided by that particular CDR?
The vehicle increases speed from 55 miles per hour to 56 miles per hour at 1.9 seconds pre-impact.
Okay. In this particular case, did you do anything that people in your field would refer to as accident reconstruction?
Did I?
Yes.
This is part of the reconstruction. Yes.
Okay. I mean, sorry. Did you make the scene?
No, I did not.
Did you? Have you had training in accident reconstruction?
Yes.
And have you been qualified as an expert in accident reconstruction in court before?
As far as conservation of linear momentum, yes.
As far as what?
Conservation of linear momentum, yes.
Okay. Have you?
I gotta ask, what the hell does that mean?
Basically, when two vehicles crash and they depart, there's angles involved.
Sure.
And we could take those angles, post-crash distances, and determine speed at impact.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any expertise in determining an area of impact in a crash?
Yes, I've been to several linear crashes, yes.
And have you testified to that before?
To area of impact?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Have you been qualified as an expert in that before?
not that field, no.
Okay. Do you have training in that area?
I do.
And would you say are you qualified or not to give expert testimony in that area?
That's not a conclusion for him to give. That's a conclusion a court makes.
Has he been qualified in the past would be a valid question for him.
He asked that already. And he said no.
Okay. What training do you have as it relates to roadway evidence and area of impact determination?
Can I ask if this officer has a CV? Because I was not informed that they were going to seek to qualify him as an expert in anything. So I haven't seen any CV.
You have one
Yes, I do.
with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's gonna take me a few minutes
Go ahead.
to get through it. Thank you. Do you have an extra copy for me?
I have a copy of this, just for myself. I don't have one.
So we're off record for a minute. Off record for a minute.
Can I get a copy? so
I'm
I can-
doing it right now.
Oh, thank
doing
you,
it right
Judge. I
now.
appreciate that.
Yep. I'll bill your office.
Bill the prosecutor.
I got a better chance of getting paid from your office.
That's probably true.
we on Zoom today? You know.
Doesn't look like it.
Have the copier just stopped.
All right.
No, don't do that. You gotta be quicker than me. Hmm? She just went to Judge Green's. She'll be all right. Thank you. That's your copy, Ms. Silver.
Thank you, Judge. I'll tender $1.25,
Thank you.
quarter a page.
All right, I think we're discussing the sergeant's qualifications.
Go right ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need more time to read that?
No. It's
Okay.
You have training as it relates to roadway evidence and determination of the area of impact.
Yes,
What is that training?
started back in January of 2009 with a 40-hour training class in initial accident investigation, tire marks, gouge marks, area of impact, roadway drag factors, such things like that.
Okay. Do you have any further training after that?
I continued on, follow-up crash investigation in March of '09, taught by Michigan State University. Scale drawings, mathematical equations, items like that.
And do you have experience in the field reviewing roadway evidence?
Yes,
Approximately how many scenes have you made in serious injury or death accidents during your career?
approximately 200.
Okay. And have you determined the area of impact in any of those cases?
Yes,
Approximately how many?
Several, 190.
What types of things do you generally base that determination on?
Gouge marks, basically where two vehicles come together at maximum engagement, where the vehicles go downward. Their undercarriages press into either the concrete or the asphalt, leaving marks, tire marks, fluid trails. There's several roadway evidence.
Would you actually need to make a scene to make those determinations, or would you be able to do so from photographs?
Probably through photographs.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to ask to qualify the sergeant as an expert in accident reconstruction to provide his opinion on the area of impact.
Ms. Silver.
I have a couple questions for the
Sure.
officer. You told us that you've never been qualified as an expert before, is that correct?
Except for conservation of linear momentum, yes.
Except for what?
Conservation of linear momentum.
And what does that mean?
Like I said, when two vehicles come together and they depart, there's angles involved, and we're able to determine a impact speed using that.
Okay, you don't really need that in this case because you've got the CDR, is that correct?
That's correct.
So that expertise really has nothing to do with this case.
Correct.
Okay. When was that, by the way?
That was back in March of 17 at Third Circuit Court.
Okay. And
Hold on a minute. You remember that?
no, he's looked down at his
Oh, thank
document.
you.
I should have said, are you looking at something? So on your CV that was provided to me about 10 minutes ago, it says that your testimony regarding crash reconstruction, you have listed 4 times that you've testified regarding crash reconstruction. Is that right?
That's correct.
And in each of those times, did you make the scene or didn't make the scene?
3 of those I made the scene.
Okay, which 3 did you make the scene?
The first 3, October 2016, March of 17, and August of 17.
Okay. And were you qualified as an expert other than in that linear stuff in Third Circuit? In either of the other 3 times that you testified, March of 2022, August of 17, and October of 16, were you ever qualified to give expert testimony?
They stipulated to it. I didn't go through this whole process of going through my CV.
Okay.
They stipulated it.
So the lawyers, so you did give expert testimony. Is that what you're telling us?
I've always thought I had to be qualified as an expert, so
Well,
The court qualified you because the attorney didn't.
they didn't put up a fight.
Okay.
okay. So when you were asked earlier, if you'd ever been,
I have given testimony.
let me finish. When you were asked earlier, if you had ever been qualified as an expert, you said no, and you took that to mean without stipulation.
Correct.
Okay. So, do you remember the names of the cases? And I will see how good he is that you testified in. Let's start with the March of 2022. That can't be too hard.
Usually I don't know names of cases. Like I didn't know the name of this case till I walked in, I saw on the TV. I don't.
Okay, I'm going to ask that to preserve this record, that the officer be required to let us know the names of the cases where he says he testified as an expert, please.
You've got a record somewhere, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Was that ordered, Judge?
Yes, ordered.
Thank you.
Clear, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
And who do I get that to?
Just gives it to the prosecutor. Okay. Or Corporal Haynes. Mr. Denoweth, if he gets it to the corporal, that's good?
I can absolutely forward it, or
Okay.
yeah, they can communicate by themselves, that's fine.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have anything else.
Renew your motion?
I would renew my motion to qualify this witness as an expert.
Still objecting, Judge.
I'll qualify.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
I'm gonna show you what's already been admitted as people's exhibits, 5, 6, and 7. I want to talk about number 6 first. Do you see any notable roadway evidence depicted in people's exhibit number 6?
Yes, looks like 2 gouge marks and some fluid, some from vehicles.
Okay, and you were telling us earlier about gouge marks, right?
Correct.
What do those indicate to you?
Scraping from either the undercarriage of a vehicle or a rim from a vehicle, something hard that's gonna gouge out concrete or asphalt.
And when a car is normally driving, it doesn't leave gouge marks, right?
Correct.
So what causes those type of gouge marks?
Something hard from a vehicle.
What is sort of the mechanical process of something hard touching the ground?
A tire comes off and the frame scrapes against the ground, or the tire comes off and the rim scrapes against the ground, where it's gonna leave that gouge into the roadway.
Okay. And you said there was something besides gouge marks notable in that photograph?
Yeah, it appears to be fluid.
Okay. What can you tell us about fluid being left at the scene of an accident?
Fluid is usually from, frontal impact of a vehicle where the radiator starts to leak. Oil is, the oil pan is ruptured and begins to leak. Transmission fluid. Those are the 3 main that would stain the roadway like this.
Are you able, so in general, in accident reconstruction, does the location of fluid tell us anything?
It can.
What can it tell us generally?
An area of impact as well as a post-impact travel of the vehicle.
Okay. And are you able to tell anything in regards to those issues just from looking at that particular photograph?
It appears that 2 vehicles came together, or a vehicle hit something very hard in this, I'm going to call it the right lane, causing damage to the front end of that vehicle, leaving fluid and gouging in the roadway.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
Sure.
I just want to shift your focus to what's been admitted as people's exhibit number 7. Is there fluid visible in number 7?
Yes.
Is there, can you actually see the gouge marks in number 7?
I cannot.
Okay. Is there any other notable roadway evidence depicted in people's number 7?
Debris from vehicle, there's a tire. Looks like the fluid trail that's traveling right to left across the yellow line.
So what is the fluid trail depicted in number 7? Can you, may I?
No, but
Okay.
you should put,
May I approach the
there
witness,
probably
Judge?
should have been
Yeah.
clean copies for each witness.
Can you show us what you believe to be the fluid trail? Draw a circle around it and put your initials. And the fluid trail you just marked, does that relate to the vehicle depicted in that picture?
No.
Okay. That would be related to a vehicle off the screen?
Object, okay, fine.
No objection?
Well, I wasn't, he was leading the witness, but that's.
Okay. Catch him on the next one.
So are you able to see anything notable related to fluids or tires or gouge marks as it relates to the truck depicted in people's number 7?
Maybe, I can't tell what this mark is here.
Can you mark that one as well, and maybe put your initials and a number 2 next to it, so we can, know what we're talking about later? And based on your observation of those photographs, specifically people's number 7, are you able to tell us what the area of impact would be in this particular accident?
In my opinion, it would be the right, I'm gonna call it again, the right lane of that roadway.
And when you say the right laning, can you tell us right and left in relation to the truck depicted in people's number 7?
It is right of the truck between the fog line and the center yellow turn line.
So would the area of impact be on the side of the road where the truck is pictured, or the other side?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Would the area of impact be on the side of the road where the pickup truck is depicted in that photograph, or would it be on the other side?
Be on the other side.
Nothing else for this witness.
Ms. Silver, your witness.
Yes. When were you asked to, when did you look at those pictures? Was today the first time?
Yes.
Okay, so when was the first time you were? So did the prosecutor tell you this morning that he was going to ask you questions about point of impact and that type of thing?
No, it was just before I walked in here.
Oh, just before you walked in here, he told you that?
Correct.
Okay, so you were coming just to testify about the CDR retrieval and what that showed, is that correct?
Correct.
As far as you knew, anyway, is
Yes,
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so you never did a report or anything outlining this opinion you just gave us today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you didn't make the scene, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how many photographs did you look at to give your expert opinion today?
2.
2 photos. Okay. And the 2 photos that you're talking about are the 2 photos that you just looked at up here?
That's correct.
Number 6 and 7?
That's correct.
And number 6 already has areas circled on it, is that correct?
That's correct.
And who put those there?
I do not know.
Okay, you know that somebody testified right before you because you were talking to him in the hallway, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, and you know that he's somebody from the downriver crash team because you know him, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and you knew that he was here to give expert testimony about what had occurred, is that correct?
Correct.
I see, okay. Now, in your CV, you indicate that you took a course focusing on determining whether or not headlights or lamps were on at the time of a crash. Is that correct?
Correct.
Were you asked to offer an expert opinion as to whether or not headlights were on in this particular case?
No, I was not.
Were headlights on the truck?
I do not know.
Can that impact an accident, whether or not someone's driving without headlights at dark?
Can that impact an
Yeah,
accident?
does that have an impact on how or why an accident occurs if someone's driving without headlights?
Sure.
You testified that the Jeep was driving at, going between 55 and sometimes up to 56 in the 5 seconds before impact. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so it just would go 55, 56, 55. It wasn't like it was increasing speed consistently. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
How about the truck? What was the speed of the truck?
Speed of the truck 1 second prior to impact from the image that I completed was 42 miles per hour.
And that's a second before impact?
That's correct.
You've been on that stretch of roadway before, I would imagine. Is that correct? Where the accident occurred?
Tell you the truth, I don't know where the crash happened at.
So you just looked at two pictures quickly before you came in and gave an expert opinion.
That's correct.
Is that what you did in the other times you testified?
No, I made the scene.
Well, in three of them you made.
3 out of 4. You're
Okay, and in the fourth one, did you just look at a picture as you walked in?
It was testimony on the EDR.
May I see those photographs, please?
I don't have that.
What do you need?
The photos?
Yeah.
So you testified that in photograph number 7, you don't see any what you called gouge marks, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in photograph 6, you saw gouge marks, is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And let me guess, the gouge marks are in the pink circled areas,
That's correct.
no other areas?
Not that I saw, no.
Okay.
Cute.
Were you asked that question before you came in about the gouge marks?
To look at photos, yes.
Okay, was that after the previous witness testified?
Yes.
And the circles were already on there?
When I looked at it,
Yeah. I have nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, thank you, Judge.
Sir, thank you for your time. You sit down. Watch the ramp.
We're very briefly call the officer in charge.
Corporal, come on up. Swear affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Settle in.
Thank you. Sir, what is your name?
Corporal Keith Haynes,
Keith spelled the normal way.
Keith,
What about your last name?
Haynes,
And how are you employed?
with a police officer as the city of Romulus.
And what is your role in this particular case?
I'm the officer in charge of this case.
Okay, what was the name of the victim in this case?
Anthony Butner.
All right. Did you take any action in regard to the blood kit that was described by the people's first witness?
I did.
What did you do?
I hand delivered it to the MSP lab in Lansing,
Where did you get it from?
the outgoing mailbox at our agency.
And then you basically drove it yourself instead of letting the post office do it?
Correct.
Okay. And did you receive the report back from MSP?
I did.
And that correspond to the blood kit you hand delivered?
Yes.
And what is the speed limit on the particular road that we are discussing in this case?
Wayne Road, and the speed limit is 45 miles an hour in
Okay.
that stretch of Wayne Road.
I'm sorry,
In that particular stretch of Wayne Road concerning this accident.
it's 45, you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing else.
Ms. Silver.
That road is dimly lit, is that correct?
During the nighttime hours, correct.
Yes, well, of course, during the nighttime hours. There are no street lights, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you make the scene?
I did.
And when you made the scene, were there lights on from the Chevrolet pickup truck?
I don't recall.
Headlights?
I don't recall.
Where is the speed limit posted in relation to where the accident occurred?
I don't know, on one of the shoulders.
At at a crossroad or near a crossroad?
Most likely, and I'm going off memory, that the speed limit's gonna be posted, and it depends ultimately on which direction of travel, right? Because they're gonna post that speed limit from whatever intersecting road you're entering it, so you have notification of that limit
Okay,
when you're just using that road.
okay, so you don't know where it is in relation to the
I
accident?
I have a pretty
exactly?
good idea.
Okay, and your pretty good idea is where? What crossroad?
Well, if it's in regards to the northbound traffic, it would be just north of Wick Road. And if it's in regards to the southbound traffic, it would be just south of Ecorse Road.
You inspected the truck, is that correct? The Silverado truck?
Yes,
And you discovered that the headlight switch in the Chevrolet Silverado was in the off position, is that correct? When you inspected it at least, is that correct?
but damaged
Okay, but in the off position, is that correct?
and damaged, correct.
Correct, thank you. That's what you noted in your report, in fact. Haynes discovered that the headlight switch in the Chevrolet Silverado was in the off position, right?
That is correct.
You also located in the Chevrolet Silverado a cooler in the bed of the pickup truck, is that correct?
Yes,
And in that cooler was a bottle, a 750 milliliter bottle of Fireball whiskey that had 3/4 of the content missing, is that correct?
correct.
As the officer in charge of the case, you also took the bulbs. Actually, I'm not sure if you did it, but I think you did. You took the bulbs from the Silverado truck into evidence. Is that correct?
As well as the Jeep, I believe, yes.
Correct, as well as the ones from the Jeep, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have anything further.
Mr. Dunaway, any redirect for the corporal?
No, thank you, Judge. The people have no further witnesses or evidence.
Ms. Silver, any defense witnesses?
Not today, Judge.
I am ready for argument.
Judge, at this time, the people are moving to bind over on both count 1 and count 2. The people submit to the court that the people have proven to a probable cause standard that these crimes occurred at the date and the place listed in the information. As to the count 1 reckless driving causing death, the court heard testimony from the people's third witness about the speed of defendant's vehicle immediately before impact, and you also heard testimony from people's fourth witness as to what the speed limit was. To a probable cause standard, she was speeding, but I think much more importantly, the court heard from the people's second and third witnesses, and specifically expert testimony from the third witness as to the area of impact, which is in the lane of travel for the decedent in this case. And I would submit to the court, I know I did perhaps take quite a bit of time and I would submit to the court that even without expert testimony, you can simply look at People's Exhibit number 7, and a layman could tell where this accident occurred. The fluid trails are, I would say almost as if this could be used for a training. You can see exactly the path of travel of the pickup truck, and it's got tons of debris at the beginning of the fluid trail. I think a person can simply look at this and, at least to a probable cause standard, determine where the accident occurred. And it's very clearly in the lane of travel of the pickup truck, which in fact means the defendant, Miss Douglas, was driving the wrong way. And you can tell that based on it being a head-on collision, looking at people's 5 and 7 combined with the testimony from the second witness. So these vehicles smash head-on with the defendant speeding, driving in the wrong lane. Speeding, I mean, just driving in the wrong lane is reckless driving, but she's speeding on top of it. So people submit to the court, probable cause has been met to count 1. As to count 2, you heard from the people's first witness, he encountered Miss Douglas. He smelled intoxicants. Ms. Silver certainly raised some issues on the cross-examination, but that officer obtained the search warrant, executed the search warrant, witnessed the blood draw from the phlebotomist, sealed the blood kit with tape, put it in the outgoing mail. The officer in charge took it out of the outgoing mailbox, hand delivered it to MSP, and testified that he received back the reports, which are admitted for exam only pursuant to statute. And I'd indicate to the court that Ms. Douglas is at a 0.214, which is about 2.5 times the limit, or a little bit over 2.5 times the limit. So, and then people's 11 just indicates the drugs in her system. It's actually not charged as the OWI, but I think it's further indication of the reckless driving. She's driving with drugs in her system. So for those reasons, the people would ask the court to bind over on counts 1 and 2. Thank you.
I guess we can start backwards with what kind of drugs? I mean, we haven't heard that those are drugs that can be in somebody's system when they're driving. First of all, I want to address the court as it relates to the count 2. We'll start backwards. Count 2 alleges that she was driving under the influence of intoxicating liquor. And I submit to the court that all of that evidence was gathered as a result of a faulty search warrant. When you look at an affiant to a search warrant, they're coming to a judge. It might even have been you in this particular case. Actually, it was. And they're submitting a search warrant averring that there are truths inside the warrant. And based on those truths, a magistrate reviews it and issues a warrant. In fact, when you look at what was requested and why it was requested in this affidavit, almost everything in here was a lie. There was no breathalyzer offered to her. And the interesting part is that there is a portion where he could have completed it accurately. It is not possible to advise the suspect of her rights because, and there's a blank area so that you can say why, but that's not what he did. He went on to the next page to indicate that she was offered a preliminary breath test and that was refused. Excuse me, another lie. He indicated further that there was slurred speech, watery eyes, and flushed face. Again, another lie. He wasn't able to make that determination, and he said so today. That there was the odor of intoxicants emanating from her breath or person. He didn't know where the intoxicants was emanating from. He said when he opened the car door, he smelled some intoxicants. So he submitted to the court for signature a faulty affidavit, an affidavit filled with lies. An affidavit that, if you take out the lies, then what do you have left? You have nothing left. You have the smell of alcohol. And we know the smell of alcohol is not enough to skip all of the other steps and go to a blood draw. So I submit to the court that there's some very serious issues with that affidavit. And I suspect that if the court doesn't dismiss it here, I suspect that a circuit court is going to have a very serious issue with the falsities that were placed in that affidavit that you relied upon to issue a search warrant. And I suppose that, when you look at the search warrant on its face, had he not, if everything in there was true, then you probably had every right to rely on it. But that's not what he did. He didn't give you that opportunity. So it's our position that count 2, operating while intoxicated causing death, should be dismissed because of the very serious issues and the failure to secure a proper search warrant. And we know that anything that is obtained in violation of the Fourth Amendment should be suppressed as fruits of the poisonous tree. As it relates to reckless driving causing death, I think the court has to look at the circumstances in total. We know from the officer that was first on the scene that the lights on that it's a dark road, that there's no street lights, there's nothing illuminating the area, and that the truck, the Silverado truck, did not have any headlights on. At least it didn't have any headlights on when the officer arrived. And I think we can infer that it didn't have any headlights on at that time because it didn't have any headlights on when it was driving down the road. I think the court can take a look at the medical examiner's report, including the tox screen, which indicates that the back or the blood alcohol concentration for the deceased was at 0.33. So that's, I don't know, my math is terrible, but way over what the legal limit was, and certainly impacting his ability to drive as well. So we've got a dark street, we've got a man driving with no lights on, who is 0.33 blood alcohol concentration. According to the witnesses in this particular case, the defendant was driving 10 miles over. I submit to the court that that does not rise to the level of reckless, or which we know is a willful and wanton disregard for the consequences. So for those reasons, it's our position that people have failed to sustain their burden.
Thank you. Mr. Dunaway.
Judge, I don't think the headlight evidence is relevant whatsoever. Even assuming the victim here doesn't have his headlights on, defendant's driving the wrong way down the road. She's not privileged to drive in the wrong lane, even if there's no other cars. It's totally reckless to drive in the wrong lane, especially if you're going 55 miles an hour. That's reckless driving, regardless if there's cars there or there's no other cars there. If there's a police officer that observes that, she's getting stopped and she'll be charged with reckless driving, whether she's sober or not. You can't drive 55 miles an hour the wrong way down a street. It has nothing to do with she can see this car or not. In 2010, the standards for these cases changed with People versus Fiesel. These crimes went from essentially strict liability to having a proximate cause element. And that's what Ms. Silver's getting at. She's essentially saying the victim is at fault, and there is a standard for that. It's laid out in Fiesel and its progeny, and that is the victim has to be grossly negligent. There's no indication the victim here was grossly negligent. They can argue he's driving with his headlights off. That's not gross negligence. People do it all the time. There's no indication of bad driving. In fact, you can see from the pictures, he's driving in the correct lane. He's not driving in the turn lane. He's not driving in the wrong lane. He's driving in the correct lane. The person who is grossly negligent and reckless is the defendant, who smashes him head on with, while speeding. And defendant's intoxication, well, it's certainly admitted for this hearing, but I can tell the court we would seek to exclude that because it's only relevant if the defense is going to use that to show that he acted in a grossly negligent manner, causing his own death. And there's no indication of bad driving by the victim here. In fact, the defendant caused the crash and is the sole cause. There's not even evidence of, well, I would submit there's not even evidence of contributory negligence, because if they're going to say driving with your headlights off contributed to the crash, I mean, no, she can't drive the wrong way down the road, regardless of people having no headlights. It's just really not that relevant. She's not allowed to hit him head on because he had his headlights off. And that would be, even if he did have his headlights off, that's simple negligence. It's not gross negligence. The courts have gone on to define gross negligence as being foreseeable. Well, people driving with their headlights off is foreseeable because it happens all the time and it's unfortunate and they should get a ticket and they should be at fault if that actually causes the accident. That's not the cause of any accident here. The cause is the defendant driving on the wrong side of the road. So as to the search warrant, well, I think the defense certainly raised some issues with that. I would say, given the things that were correct, I believe it would have been signed anyway. And that's the odor of intoxicants, and there was cross-examination and direct as to slurred speech, and she was in and out, and it was kind of slurred. So maybe it wasn't slurred speech in the way that we think of it, but he said, yeah, it was slurred, and she was in and out of consciousness. But I think given she's driving on the wrong side of the road, that alone with the odor of intoxicants, I think is enough. And I certainly do expect some motion practice on that issue, but my recollection of the standard, and this is just from memory, would be that the defense would have to show he intentionally lied to suppress that. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure Ms. Silver would love to correct me right now, but I believe the standard to suppress a search warrant is an intentional lie. I don't think that exists, so I will defend that search warrant at the circuit court. And I'd ask the court to bind over both counts, and we will file some motions soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. To say that Sergeant or Corporal Sadler's sloppy affidavit is a concern to me would be a gross understatement. I can't see where he was intentionally lying, because if he would have just given me the facts as they came out today, I would have signed the warrant without hesitation. So I can only say it was extremely sloppy, and that is a concern to me. But this is a probable cause hearing, and I'm not the trier of fact. I'm the gatekeeper, and the people got the gate open. I'm going to bind over on counts 1 and 2. Ms. Douglas, I wish you luck downtown. And folks, I am deeply sorry for your loss. Exhibits, I think Heather's got some. AOI date is the 4th, 9 a.m. and bond will be continued.
Thank you.
Heather, I'm gonna shut down.
Next